Conversations with Garmamie. We've got a special guest here today. His name is Joe Neurauter. He's a BJJ black belt. He's a karate black belt, former mixed martial arts competitor as well. He is also a martial arts gym owner. He runs De La Costa Academy here in Ottawa, Ontario, Canada. How you doing, Joe?
Fantastic. How are you doing? Long time no see.
Long time no see, indeed. I'm doing well. It's been a cold day here in Ottawa, but I guess winter time and Christmas is here. But Joe, I'm happy to be speaking with you. I have some questions for you, and I really want to hear your input. First and foremost, I'm curious to know what drew you to martial arts and combat sports. Tell us your story.
It's the same story you're going to hear 100,000 times from 100,000 different people. I was bullied. To be fair, I was also a bit of a bully as well. So I was both sides of it. I was bullied. I was weak. I was an asthmatic little kid that wasn't very, didn't have a whole lot of self-confidence. And the martial arts changed my life.
Now, tell us, when you say you were bullied, was this like particular, like throughout your entire, you're talking about grade school, high school, on and off? Just give us some context there.
Yeah, I don't want to play the victim because, a lot of what we call bullying is interpersonal, figuring out the hierarchy. I got bullied a bit in high school. I mean, a lot of us did. I bullied a little bit when I was a little bit younger, so it's not like I didn't have it coming. And it made an effect on me. You don't think these things last, but it made a really big effect on me. And the martial arts allowed me to get used to that feeling of fear, used to that feeling of getting beat up, and that it's not the end of the world, and allowed me to build and earn self-confidence. So it wasn't a fragile self-confidence that you get when you think you're tough. You actually get tough. So that made a huge change in my life.
Really interesting, because you hear that time and time again from a lot of mixed martial artists in general, whether it's mixed martial artists or traditional martial artists, you name it. That theme of being bullied is always a recurring one. Now, tell us about your gym and its connection to the Dominican Republic, and why you decided to open one here in Ottawa.
Well, our academy in Dominican Republic, we started that, well over 15 years ago. I think it's 16, 17 years ago by now. And it quickly morphed into a community outreach program, youth at risk program, with a sliding scale. Pay what you can. If you can't pay, don't pay. And we've been able to do that for quite a long time now. I want to say 16, 17 years, I think. And coming to Ottawa, I started teaching classes at other gyms. And then it got to the point where if I wanted to grow the program, I had to go off on my own. So it wasn't like I wanted to open my own gym. That's what I really want to do. I'd already done that. It was more, I felt that if I wanted my program to grow, and programs need to grow, they start to get stale, I had to start putting my money where my mouth was and open my own place.
Can you elaborate on that when you say programs needing to grow? What do you mean? I think I know what you mean, but just elaborate on that.
I don't mean to say it has to get bigger and bigger and bigger, but attrition is going to start chewing away at your academy. And you want to have new blood coming in. You want to have those new people bringing fresh ideas. You want to have those new people. I don't want to say keeping it from getting stale, because in our sport, it doesn't get very stale. But new people coming into the group, and as old people come out, we get new people coming in, fresh blood, fresh ideas. Getting larger group as well is good, because the more people you get, the more different styles you eventually develop. And now you can come into a gym that's got, my gym is a smaller gym. It's going to be a bigger gym. But you go to a gym, you have one guy that's big, one guy that's small, one girl that's super technical. You have all these different styles, and one person will play this style, one person will play that style, and you have that smorgasbord, that embarrassment of riches as far as who you're going to roll with, who you're going to spar with, who you're going to train with. And you start getting relationships in that gym as far as, someone's teaching someone else, someone's got a really good thing, you start teaching a few other people. And it's really hard to get that if your program is stuck at, 15, 20, 25 people.
Yeah, and it's interesting because here in this region, as you know, there's a lot of different martial arts gyms. And I think, me personally, I think the more the merrier, right? Because some people will gravitate towards one coach and others will gravitate towards another. And I think that having those options are really important, because there's different profiles of people in this sport, right? I mean, all sorts of people are involved, regardless of the style. But specifically, when it comes to Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, you teach Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Tell us about your philosophy as far as teaching BJJ.
Sure. I mean, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu at its purest is fighting. I mean, that's what it is we teach. We teach a bunch of skills that we hope someone's never going to have to use. And over time, as we practice it, it kind of does diverge somewhat into self-defense and the sport aspect of it. I love both. I come from a background where before I started wearing a suit to work every day, I worked as a bartender. I worked as a doorman in clubs. I fought mixed martial arts. I've been punched in the face more than once. Not something I'm proud of, but I've been out there. I've fought. I've applied my skills. I've been beaten up. I've defended myself successfully. And if we're going to teach a martial art, we do need to remember that this is supposed to be applicable when you need it. So when I think about teaching Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, I love the sports side of it. Don't get me wrong. But I'm always emphasizing, hey, you need to remember that you need to be able to use this. So I think that's super important. It really does factor into my style of teaching. As far as my style of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, I mean, that's modified and morphed quite a bit over the years as I got older and, not to blow my own horn, more skilled. I've kind of moved away from the way I started. When I started Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu 20 some odd years ago, you'd go in there and you were tough and other guys on the mat were tough and you just throw the kitchen sink at each other. And nobody was really all that skilled back then, at least in, where in the areas where I was training. You had a black belt instructor and everyone else was like stuck around blue belt. And it was a butcher shop and it was fun. We had a great time. Don't get me wrong. But as you get older, you start realizing that you don't have to work that hard to beat somebody. You can actually be smarter about it and learn some technique and learn some technique, learn some technique. And that gets to the point where you start slowing down a little bit. And 50 years old is not 20 years old. 70 years old is not 50 years old. And so your style of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, hopefully, it adapts to that. My style right now is a lot more about preventing someone from doing what he wants to do to me, and then being patient, getting in a good position, and then abusing that good position, bringing that pressure, making someone else make a mistake, and then capitalizing that mistake. Instead of what I used to do was take a whole bag of techniques, dump it out over somebody's head, and see what's stuck. So I'm much more, I want to say cerebral, but I'm much more strategic in how I approach jiu-jitsu now than I ever did before. And it affects the way I teach as well. I have some guys that they're very, very agile. They move quite a lot, but I'm teaching them as well to say there's a time to move, but when you're in a good spot in a good position, it's a time to stop the motion and control someone and make them helpless. So that idea of control has got a lot deeper in my jiu-jitsu than it ever was when I was younger, and quite frankly, didn't need it as much, or thought I didn't need it as much. And at the end of the day, jiu-jitsu, aside from being about fighting, is about having control. I want to have control of myself and control of you, so I get to decide what happens next. I never want to injure someone accidentally. I want to be able to decide whether or not to injure someone.
Now, when you speak about, because you've been in the sport for so long, you've been practicing it for, as you mentioned, 20 years, how do you maintain progression and how do you unlearn bad habits? Because clearly your game has evolved over time, as you just explained, but how do you ensure that you're filtering out and refining the process and getting rid of those bad habits? And I can give you context for that. I asked that because I myself, I practice in a few different grappling styles, and the level, just being brutally honest, the level of stubbornness is remarkable. Just in terms of bad technique and just using more strength and just leveraging on what you think are assets, which in fact are not, right? It's a sport about technique ultimately, and the better the technique, the less strength you use, and it's timing. It's so how do you ingrain that ability to filter out bad technique?
I think it's humility. And not that I'm the most humble guy in the world. I'm clearly not. You know me. But if you're not humble, this sport will teach it to you. And you can only run full steam into the wall so many times before you start figuring a way around or over the wall. And some people, that takes longer than others. I spent a long time at purple belt, not only because I moved so much and went from, different city to different city, but also because I was playing the same game 7 years in a row. You can do 7 years of jiu-jitsu, or you can do 1 year of jiu-jitsu 7 times. I was just doing the same thing over and over and over and over and over again. Wow. Until I finally smartened up. And, with my training partner, Papo, in Dominican Republic, we'd come in the mornings and just take our games apart like Lego, lay them out all over the floor and start putting them back together again. And I had a lot of, I want to say, scar tissue in my game from just coming up and being that strong guy, 6'2", pressing 315, strong, one of the stronger guys in the room, just hammering on people, to where I was, as you said, I was falling in that trap of being stubborn with it. And I had to take my game apart and start learning jiu-jitsu all over again, purple belt. And the only way to do that is humility. And then I got humbled again when I came back to Canada and started training with, some of the guys at Ronin and training with Damien and that crew. Because first of all, I wasn't as young as I was, wasn't as strong as I was, but I also wasn't as technical as I thought I was. And so I had to stop and relearn my jiu-jitsu again. And you do that often enough. I've done that a few times in my jiu-jitsu career where it's, if you love the sport, you want to get good at the sport, and it's going to cost you certain things. And one of those things is pride. And if you keep holding on to the same game over and over and over again, but I've done 23, 24 years of jiu-jitsu, I'd hate to do the same year 24 times in the same way I said before, 7 years of purple belt. And now I study jiu-jitsu. I teach, but I'm also studying all the time. I'm looking at videos all the time. I'm trying to incorporate it in my game. I learn from everybody. I learn from my students. And one of the things I made it a point of doing, even when I was teaching at another gym, and now that I have my own gym, is I would go to open mats at other people's gyms. And I was a staple. I bring my guys to Arcana was where we went the most. And I would go there and I'd get beat up, not by everybody, but I would get beat up. And I'd make it a point that my guys saw me getting beat up, that they see I'm not afraid to go and get beat up in front of them. I'm not hiding in my gym. I'm not afraid to get beat up. And yeah, I had the excuse that I'm older and what do you want to call it, but there are guys there that are more technical than I am. And that's the price of admission. If I want to get better, I need to swallow my pride and swallow my humility, and practice humility and say, I can either be the best guy in my small room or I can be the best guy I can be. And as an instructor, I can't afford the luxury of having the same game I had 10 years ago or 5 years ago or 5 months ago. I have to be constantly improving. And that means changing my game. It means taking out what doesn't work. It means taking out what maybe worked for me 10 years ago when I was faster, tougher, fitter, and substituting something now that I'm smarter and have more technique and experience. But it comes down to humility. And this sport will teach it to you if you let it. If not, keep grinding. Sooner or later it'll come to you. Or you'll injure out, or you get frustrated and quit. My way's better.
No, that's really I appreciate that perspective. That's really interesting, Joe, because I've seen you in action as far as instructing students, and you're very detailed oriented, and you have a plan as a teacher. You go in with an intent. You have a plan. You have a vision in mind, and you really zone in on your students in terms of understanding their strength and understanding their limitations. Now, in your journey to attaining that black belt, you have a black belt in karate, of course, but in the journey of attaining that black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, where was the biggest learning curve for you, like in terms of belt ranks? I mean, you mentioned purple belt. And break it down for us, for some of us who may not know the belt rank in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
Well, there's white belt that you get in the bag. It comes with your gi on your first day. So everyone starts off at white belt. Then there's blue belt when you have a certain amount of expertise. And then after blue comes purple, then brown, then black. And different people have different standards for every particular belt. And, we can talk about that later if you like. But it's only 5 belts. Some people give stripes, some people don't. But it's only those white, blue, purple, brown, black, and then all the different degrees of black. Where the learning curve for me was most, I can't say where it was most. I will tell you this. Purple belt is where I had to start taking control of my own learning. Because I left, I was training somewhere here in Montreal with Fabio Land at the time. And it was easy to just go into class and do what I was told and do that. And just whatever he teaches, I do. And I didn't have to think about it too much. And then when I went to Dominican Republic, I had to take control of a lot of my own training. I had Papo, who's world's greatest training partner, but we had to take control of our own training. We're both 2 purple belts together. And that's where I really learned how to learn jiu-jitsu. I couldn't just sit back and absorb it through osmosis. I had to be proactive with it. And purple belt is where I realized as well that the road I was on was not leading me anywhere. I was just spinning my wheels. And so that was a big belt for me. And it took me a bit of time with it because, again, I changed cities and on again, off again training because of that. Brown belt was good because I spent a lot of brown belt here in Ottawa, and I spent a lot of time with brown belt. And again, partially because I'd moved again. I was away from my black belt instructor. I was away from all of that, but it really gave me time to settle in and get ready for black belt. And I think brown belt was really important because that's also where I got really humble. when I was a purple belt in Dominican Republic, and even a brown belt in Dominican Republic, I was second best guy in the room. There was my partner Papa, who was better than me, and then there was me, and there was everyone else. So it was easy to kind of think I was better than I was. And then I came back to Ottawa, and okay, yeah. And I can't just use my age as an excuse. There were good guys there, and so I had to. Brown belt is where I really had to adjust my game, because I wasn't the biggest guy and I wasn't the best guy, and I had to change the way I approached jiu-jitsu, and that was a big belt for me. And black belt is where I've done most, like a lot of my teaching. I taught at purple, I taught at brown, but black belt is where my game is changing a lot because I'm teaching a lot, and I'm really getting deep in the fundamentals with my guys. And when I teach something, I realize, oh yeah, okay, I do this. I didn't realize I did that. So I'll put a bit of emphasis on it. Or I'll study, because I study before all my classes. Oh, this guy's doing something really cool. By way of example, I just changed the way I've been doing triangles. I've been doing triangles the same way for over 20 years. And I was studying the John Danaher stuff. And I'm like, okay, he's got a really cool way to do that. Let's drill that. And I'm really liking it. So now I've changed the way I do triangles.
Can you tell us a little bit about his application?
He changes the angle quite a bit, and he almost inverts on it. I can show it to you better than I can teach it to you. But what he does, in essence, he's much better at excluding the shoulder and the lats and all that body musculature and all that body form here, and attacking just the neck. Whereas the way I was doing triangles before, the way I was taught, there was a lot of shoulder in there. There's a lot of room in there. You'd lock it on, you'd grab the head, you'd haul and wait for him to tap. It worked, but this way it's just so much more efficient. I'm not saying, John is the be all end all of jiu-jitsu, but through studying it, I've now changed something that I did one way for 20 years, and I do it a different way now. And I'm studying jiu-jitsu all the time. I'm looking at videos all the time. I'm going back to old notes. I'm stealing shamelessly from everybody I know. I'm really, teaching has taught me a lot about jiu-jitsu. It's taught me a lot about not only just new techniques, but the approach to jiu-jitsu and how to really break it down and how to tie it all together. And having, getting a new program with white belts and bringing them up to blue and, eventually purple, it's been really good for me. And getting other people's, I've had some members from other gyms join our gym, brown belts, purple belts, black belts, and seeing how they go about it, and seeing, looking at their game and saying, okay, I understand what you're doing, but here's how you can do that a little bit better, and giving my input to that. It's opened up my mind to jiu-jitsu quite a bit. So when you ask me which belt or what level taught me the most, purple, brown, black, and I'm sure if you ask me again in 5 years, it'll be the last 5 years.
It's fascinating because it sounds like the learning never stops, right? For you, you're continuously expanding your knowledge. You're doing a lot of research and so on. Now let's shift the focus a little bit towards your students, as you just mentioned. What do you look for in your students as far as your Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu students? What is I don't want to say what's the ideal student, but if you could kind of give us an idea of the sort of characteristics you look for in a white belt, in a beginner, what would they be?
First day white belt. When I look at a first day guy walks in the gym, the first thing I'm looking at is how do I make him a purple belt, not a blue belt. I'm looking a bit further down the road. I'm looking 5 years down the road. What does this person need to get to purple belt? Because you get them to purple belt, they got a lot of momentum to carry on. You start thinking, how do I get them to blue belt? It narrows your focus a little bit. The first thing I'm looking for really is attitude. And the rule in my gym is you're welcome as long as you make other people welcome. And by that, I mean actively. If you're a world champion Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu player and you're a jerk, or you are selfish in your Jiu-Jitsu, or you don't have time for the people in the academy, I have no time for you. I don't need you. I don't need you in my gym. I need people and I want people that will make other people feel welcome. A lot of people are shy, so maybe I don't lean on them so hard for it. But jiu-jitsu is too hard. It takes too much time, too much dedication to think you suck all the time, or to not have a good time all the time. You got to go there, and you actually have to want to go to jiu-jitsu if you want to get good. And for that, you need people in the gym that are going to make you feel like you belong there. Because that walk up my stairs the first time, I'm aware of it. It's a difficult walk up those stairs. First time to a new gym, that's tough. So the first thing I'm looking for is attitude. I want someone who's going to be welcoming and opening to other people, because that person's new today, but in 6 months, he's going to be the one welcoming other people. The second thing I'm looking for is, some sort of commitment from you. I don't insist on it, but if you want to get good, you got to do your part. I'm going to do my part to teach you. I'm going to lead you. I'm going to give you the skill you need, all of that, but you have to actually show up and do the work. If you don't show up and do the work, okay, but don't wait around for belts, because I have levels. They don't change. So I need someone who's got that attitude, the welcoming attitude. I need someone that's, I don't want to say the first day you're going to commit to 6 days a week, but you have training partners, especially now during COVID. Your training partners are counting on you to be the best training partner you can be. So if you're just showing up every now and again, you're slowing down, you're not being the best training partner you can be. Like, you don't have to be the best in the world. You're their 6-month white belt. You're a 6-month white belt. No one's expecting you to roll up the brown belts, but you should be in a little bit of a hurry to get good enough to give the rest of the guys in the gym a good training partner. And third, I'm looking for people who are going to pay it forward. I'm looking for people who long-term are going to be the kind of person that says, it wasn't easy for me when I started, or it was easy, either way. But when I started, people made a home for me, and they helped me along. They helped pull me up. When I was new as a white belt, the purple belt spent some time with me. The blue belt spent some time with me. When they get to blue belt, purple belt, brown belt, black belt, I expect those guys by then to have the attitude of, all right, I went through an open door. I'm going to make sure the door is open for the guys behind me. You give me those 3 things, I'll make an athlete out of you. I don't need the guy that was captain of the football team, although I'm happy to have him. I don't need the natural athlete. Matter of fact, a lot of those natural athletes don't last in jiu-jitsu because they're so used in their life to things coming easy to them. They get to Brazilian jiu-jitsu, and some 15-year-old purple belt kid is making them look like nothing. It's tough for them. They quit. But on the other hand, you get a lot of guys like me, scrawny, asthmatic, bullied, that start picking up a sport like this, and they get into it. And next thing you know, these ninja nerds who nobody would have thought they were good at it, and they're monstrous, and it changes their lives. If those people, if people hadn't made space for them on the mats, that never would have happened. So I want the guy with the attitude that's going to be welcoming to other people. I want someone committed to learn, although you can grow that after a while. And I want someone who down the road is going to pay it forward. Remember that people paved the path for him and pave a wider path for the guys behind him. Other than that, big, small, woman, man, tough, not tough. We talk about you can't teach heart. Sure you can. Yeah, you can teach heart. Not everyone has to be tough on the first day. You can be tough on the 50th day or the 150th day. You'll learn that.
That's really fascinating about creating, incentivizing a culture of positivity as far as, welcoming people and ensuring everyone is in it together as far as, refining each other's jiu-jitsu and learning as a team. Like the concept, it's funny because it's an individual sport, but it's also a team sport. How would you explain jiu-jitsu to the non-initiated combat sports fan or practitioner? Because I ask that because there's a ton of literature from memes to podcasts to you name it, just about, especially within a certain demographic of people, where for them jiu-jitsu is more than just a sport. It seems like it's a way of life. It gives them work-life balance. It gives them meaning. It seems like it's something beyond. I don't want to over dramatize it, but from what I see and from what I read on social media, especially for people who are coming into these sports later on in their lives, like in their 30s, it seems like jiu-jitsu means more to them than many things in their lives. What is it about this sport, do you think, that does that to people?
It's the best cult you'll ever join.
Wow.
I mean, people that we teach skills that we hope people will never have to use. I mean, these skills work. I mean, people come to Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu because it works. And they come in, they're big, they're tough, or they're small, they're not tough. And no matter what, if you haven't done it before, you're going to get rolled up. This stuff legitimately works. But there's more to it than that. As you correctly point out, it's more than just going in and practicing a sport. I mean, and there's more. And that's not to denigrate sports. I mean, people play beer league hockey on the weekends. That's their social life. It's a great thing in their life. It's not about how many goals you score. It's about getting together with the guys.
It's about how many beers you drink. No, sorry, continue.
Oh, right. But Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, it's for a lot of people, not for everyone, but for a lot of people, it's more than that. And it's more than just a social life. It's more than just a social support group. And it's all those things, and all those things are important. Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is magic. It's the old Kung Fu guys when we were kids we used to watch on TV, in the movies. But it's real. The ability to handle yourself physically changes lives. Most of us live a life we never, God willing, we don't get many opportunities to have to handle our business physically. Knowing you can, it's a life-changing thing. And not that you're going to go out there and beat people up, but knowing that, God forbid, push comes to shove, I can handle myself, will change your life. Secondly, it gives us adversity in bite-sized pieces.
Mm.
You know, we don't, most of our lives, you know, get a bit of work stress, get a bit of this, and it slowly builds up, but you don't get your courage tested all that often in real life, hopefully. I mean, there's some lives that do, if you're in the military, clearly, and I don't pretend to know anything about that. But for most of us in our normal pedestrian day-to-day lives, we don't get a chance to really test ourselves. This gives a chance to test it in a controlled environment where it's high pressure, but low consequences. You know, I see a tough guy in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and there's a part of me like, oh, I don't want to mix up with him. But there's another part of me like, yeah, let's see what he's got. And with the way we compete in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, where you compete by white belt, blue belt, purple belt, we also have a chance to compete against guys that are not going to blow us out completely, or women. The guys that are guys and girls, got to get with a new lexicon. But we get to compete with people at our level, and we can test ourselves. We can test ourselves, we can fail. And we can test and we can fail. And we can test and we succeed, we can overcome. Where in our regular lives, for most of us, do we really get a chance to overcome something? Where do we get a chance to be afraid of something and do it anyway, and do it again and do it again and overcome that fear? It's a rare thing. And so why do people get hooked on Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu? There's something in the human psyche that needs to be challenged. We need to feel that fear of competition. We need to feel that I can do this, but I'm not sure if I can, and I'm nervous, and then do it anyway. And we need to improve. And in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, you know, I always tell people 2 months in, you can look at the new guy coming in the door and be like, why does this guy suck so much? No, it's not that he sucks. It's that in 2 months you did this. You went right up.
Right.
And now you look at new people. That was you 2 months ago. Imagine now a year from now. Imagine 2 years from now. Imagine 20 years from now. And the sport is so deep. I'm 20 some odd years into it, and I'm learning every day. I'm learning. And someone new will come along with something, I'll learn that too. And I could go on and on for hours, but you and I can roll, and we can have so many different types of training. We could roll for fun. We could roll, we want to see who's better. We could go super hard, or we could sit back and play physical jazz where we're, you know, you're doing something and I'm coming along with it. There's so many ways to roll. It's just fantastic.
Really interesting.
So yeah, it's the best cult you'll ever join.
I like that. I've never heard that one. That's
I'm gonna put that on a t-shirt, make $1 million.
Yeah, that is, no, seriously, that's a really good way of putting it. There's a lot of truth in that. Now, it's interesting because your academy has a strong contingent of female practitioners and grapplers. Competitors. Speak to us about that.
Valkyries, yeah. We're blessed. I mean, we have a strong contingent of strong women. They're super supportive amongst themselves. There's no cliquey. They're tough. They're learning. Yeah, we're really blessed to have it. And what that allows us to do is that when a new woman shows up at the door, who's nervous, rightly so, but training with men, who's nervous about this sport, where there's a lot of contact, who wants to come in and learn how to defend herself, or wants to pick up a new sport, she comes on and she looks on the mat, and that's her 6 months down the road, or 18 months down the road, or 3 years down the road. And she can look and say, okay, well, they can do this, I can do this. And some of these women are, you know, they're leaders on the mat, and you can see like just how beautiful the jiu-jitsu is. I'm like, yeah, I want that too. So we're very, very blessed in that we have a strong contingent. And I can't take credit for it. I mean, the women in my academy are amazing, and they're also super welcoming. And it's different when I say, hey, come on, it's a great sport, you know, than when you come into the mats and there's 6, 7, 8 women there, like, hey, come on, come roll with us, come play with us, we'll teach you. So our academy is super blessed to have it, and I'm looking to grow it more.
Right on. Just want to shift the topic, the conversation onto a different topic, a topic that we're all experiencing, of course, this pandemic. And you know, a lot of gyms across the country, a lot of businesses, obviously, quite frankly, are having a very challenging time, you know, dealing with this thing. What are your thoughts about this pandemic in terms of, a lot of people are saying that if and when things go back to quote unquote normal, whatever that is, whenever that is, some people don't think customer behavior is going to magically go back to what it was before, whether it's shopping, for certain items or attending certain businesses like they used to attend. What are your thoughts in terms of specifically the martial arts in industry, gyms, etc., dojos?
I tend to disagree with that. I'm very optimistic as to once we get through this pandemic. I think during the pandemic, I'll be careful how I say this. There is no bad news without some silver lining. And I think people are reassessing how they spend their time. Clearly, it's been a tragedy for a great many people. I don't mean to denigrate that. But for even more people, they've been really taking a second look at how they spend their time and what they want to do with their spare time. And I'm seeing even now, we're very, very strict with our training protocols and with and all the rest of it. We're not advertising. We're not trying to go out in the street and get new people. But my phone's ringing off the hook with people who want to join up, even now during a pandemic. And I've been, trying to filter and screen as best we can to make sure we're getting people that are taking this seriously. I think if anything, there's going to be a strong resurgence in 2021 for martial arts in general, as people start valuing their, I want to say off time, but let's say not working time more, and deciding to be more proactive with what to do with their off time and say, okay, what am I doing on the time that I'm not at work that makes me happy? What am I doing that gives me balance in my life? What am I doing and what could I be doing better? And I think there's a real place for martial arts gyms, in particular Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu gyms, for that. So I'm very, very optimistic. Like, for those of us, God willing, that can survive this pandemic, as far as our businesses go, I think we're going to be well situated, and the business is going to come back in spades. What we offer is unique to the human experience. And I'm not talking just Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I mean, any martial art, and I include boxing and wrestling in that as well. Any of those arts offer something in people's lives that most of us are missing. And now that we have a chance for introspection to see what it is, we want to get out of our lives, people might not be top of mind. Like, martial arts is the answer, but it's certainly an answer. And as people realize, what they're missing in their lives, because they have to self-examine, they're going to find more space for stuff like this. So I'm doing our gym, fortunately, without advertising, without trying to bring in new students. We're getting new students in the middle of a pandemic. And we're, like I said, we're filtering as best we can, and we're doing a good job of the filtering. So I can only imagine once the pandemic is, I don't want to say under control, but as we get more confidence, the vaccine spreads, as people start going about their regular lives, as they start redefining their regular lives, they're going to be coming into the martial arts gyms and other gyms and really taking a more proactive approach to their off time, to what we call their leisure time.
It's an optimistic way of thinking, and I think I'm happy to hear that. I agree with you. I think people will come back. Obviously, people are going to these facilities, and I think the popularity and the demand will continue. Hopefully, I've had the opportunity over the last couple of months to interview other martial artists and instructors in town. I interviewed Tony Walby from Takashi Dojo. I interviewed Jamie Hahn from Arcana Martial Arts, who unfortunately, as you know, closed down recently. And I also interviewed Mark Holtz from Gracie Baja.
Yeah.
And everyone is really sharing a lot of interesting perspectives on the topic. And unfortunately, as you know, Arcana Martial Arts closed. And I know that on the Facebook page, I don't know if it's okay if I mention this or not, let me know. But I saw that Jamie's encouraging students to go train to transition over at your gym, which I think is pretty cool. Do you want to comment on that?
Yeah, first of all, I'm super grateful to Jamie and to Damien as well for that recommendation. Clearly, what happened with Arcana is a tragedy, and it's not the first, and it's not going to be the last. There's going to be more of us that are going to be in that situation, have to make those hard decisions. And I don't want to list others that I know for fear of missing one. I love that gym. I mean, the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu program that Damien built there, and the guys built there, it's never one person, was top notch. I mean, the depth in that gym was incredible. And we would go there every Saturday. I used to teach a class there on Fridays. We would go there every Saturday for open mat. Even when I opened my own program, Jamie and Damien were kind enough to let me keep training there, even though I had a program just down the road. You don't get that from a lot of gyms. It was a very unique atmosphere, a very unique place built by very unique people. That Jamie would, give me el dedito, we say in Spanish, that he would recommend that the people come to train with me, and that Damien, especially, who I respect immensely in the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu community, would say my place is the way to go. It's really hard to find words for how gratifying that is. Damien's Jiu-Jitsu is fantastic, and anyone that knows him knows how great he is. So to have him say that I'm a good instructor and that people should go there is clearly it's a great seal of approval. But it speaks to the character of these guys as well. Jamie in the middle of losing his business, and Damien, his program no longer existing, still thought of what's best for their students and where their students could go best. And I think part of it, if I can, dare to speak for them and blow my own horn a little bit, is that the culture that Arcana had, the open door culture, that we love jiu-jitsu and everyone that does it culture, the I don't care what patch you have on your back culture or what gym you're from culture, the real openness and the focus on the love for the sport, as opposed to, and nothing wrong with tribalism and team. I mean, nothing wrong with that at all, but the openness they had there, just more overjoyed to have people from other gyms come in and train, and how we would go and train at other gyms as well. I try to do that in our academy as well. Clearly not during COVID, because I can't have just, people coming in that we don't know coming in for COVID, but that's always been my philosophy as well. Train where you can. I encourage my students to train at other gyms. I encourage them to go to other gyms, learn at other gyms, bring the stuff back. People from other gyms to drop it in our gym. We're not hiding anything. It's not 1995 anymore where my secret techniques are going to beat your secret techniques. There's something called an internet. And I feel that, and I try to promote to my students that not all gyms are for all people. So our gym has a certain atmosphere, a certain vibe to it. Other gym has a different atmosphere, different vibe. People should go where they're most comfortable. And with that attitude comes along a responsibility to put your students first and say, you guys go train somewhere else, learn something, bring it back. I'd love to see it. Teach it to me. And Arcana had that vibe, and we have that vibe. And I think that we were close enough with them, because I would coach some of the guys in competition. If some of the guys couldn't make it to coach, I would coach the guys in competition. Some of them would come over to me to help prep for comp. We'd go over there and prep for our comps. There was a real synergy going on. We're real sister clubs. So to have that continue by and be afforded the opportunity to make a home for those students is great. And it's not the only gym that's done that. I mean, when Wade and Ryan decided it was time to move on from Ronin, they recommended us strongly for the Ronin crew as well to come over. And, I was very flattered and gratified by that. I mean, honored would be the word for it. And it's the same thing when people from, Toronto have someone move to Ottawa, and they're kind enough to say, hey, you got to check in on Joe, drop in on Joe, or from Montreal, move to Ottawa, or for anywhere. And their instructor thinks to say, hey, go check in on Joe. It's just a massive compliment. And when it comes from peers, from people you respect high in the community, like Omar Salvosa from Toronto sent us one of his guys. Super thrilled to have him. To have Damien, a peer of mine, send people over, to have Jamie send people over. There's really no higher compliment, and all I can do from my end of it is not let them down. Like when I send a student to another gym, another city, whatever it is,
right,
I'm hoping they'll receive them like a VIP.
Now it's interesting, is there as a coach, as an instructor, is there a lot of pressure when you have a competition team, when you have a group of competitors, when you're trying to build up? Do you feel the pressure for your competitors and so on?
I'll be honest with you, not yet. I imagine when my team is larger and a bit deeper. When I say deeper, I mean a bit more established. I've been there for a few more years, and I have like a bunch of black belt competitors and brown belt competitors. Maybe my mind will change. So I don't want to pretend that my mind will never change on it. I see competition as a training tool. I look at competition, and I'm hoping for a silver medal from my guys. I don't necessarily want them to win gold. It's great when they win gold. And believe me, my guys win a lot of gold. But I'm looking for testing what we did in class. because we go in class, we drill it, and then we roll it, and then we take it on the road to another gym. We try it there. The more pressure, the less jiu-jitsu you can do, and competition is the best tool we have to test that. And when you got a competition coming up, you start dialing in your training. It's a training tool. Not coincidentally, our guys do very, very well in competition. But I don't feel that. I really, to be honest with you, I don't feel that pressure. And I don't put that pressure on my students. The pressure on my students is, okay, to be fair, I pressure them to compete a little bit. I'm known to pressure my students to compete a bit. But I wouldn't say pressure. I encourage. But the pressure is to do it. Just do it. Go. Compete. You're going to lose sooner or later. I tell my guys, sooner or later, if you compete, I promise you, you're going to lose. Go and lose, and then win, and then win again, and then win again. I would suck if you won everything all the time. So my guys, they go, and they win and they lose. Mainly they win. I mean, I'm not trying to brag, but I got a very solid team. Mainly they win. And if I ever have a guy that's, it's too easy for him, I'll either promote him or I'll take him on the road and bring him somewhere else to compete. There's always going to be somebody better anywhere you go. So pressure to compete, pressure to win at competitions, my athletes feel the pressure because all athletes should feel pressure to win. They feel that internally. I don't feel any pressure to have my guys do well or not do well in competition. I don't know. And maybe because of that, I don't have only my elite guys competing. I want all my guys to compete. I'm not going to force them to compete, and I don't want them competing the first 2 weeks. But sooner or later, yeah, all my guys, I want them to compete. And win or lose, I don't want to say I'm agnostic because we all want to celebrate the wins, but I want to see how they did and what they can do better, and then bring it back to the gym and drill that and fix that, and then send them out to compete again. It's a training tool. Right. Nobody's keeping track of how many gold medals Della Costa Academy won at the last tournament. It's just nobody cares. I don't. It's great. Sorry, we have to edit this down because I'm all over the map on it.
No, this is great. No, yeah,
it's gratifying when I see my top guys beating other schools' top guys. That's gratifying at certain belt levels. I'm not going to say my top guys are beating like the top black belts because my top guys are, blue and purple belts. It's gratifying to see my top guys beating top guys from other gyms. Of course It is. But show me your medium guys. Show me the guys who weren't athletes on day one. Show me the guys who weren't monsters when they walked onto the mat. Those are the guys that can measure a team. And my medium guys, my guys that weren't athletes in high school, that aren't fantastic, that are drilling and training and drilling and putting the time in, they're monsters too, and they're winning too. That's what really gratifies me.
Interesting.
Even a captain of the wrestling team and put my patch on him, he's going to win. What does that do for me? But that ninja nerd we were talking about earlier, or that girl that didn't have confidence, that was meek and mild, and all of a sudden she's ripping some girl's head off in a tournament. Man, that's what does it for me. And the medal is just secondary.
Interesting. Now, in your opinion, what's the difference between a coach and a sensei? Is there a difference? If so, what is it?
Well, I don't speak Japanese for one. Not true. I do a little bit. It's a relationship thing. We've taken the word sensei from the Japanese culture and not necessarily applied all the connotation that goes with it. And I don't want to pontificate on Japanese culture. I lived there for a year. I studied the language. I came up in martial arts, but that doesn't put me in a position to speak for the Japanese people or their culture.
Right.
I like coach.
It means teacher, right? And in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu,
it means more than that.
For sure. But in the interest of simplifying, it means teacher. And in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, it's professor.
In Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, we use professor.
Which is teacher as well, which is when you translate.
In Portuguese, professor is teacher.
Right, exactly.
In Japanese, sensei implies a different kind of relationship.
It's like a life guide of sorts.
Yeah, it's more than just someone who teaches you a skill.
Right.
A sensei is a guide. It's more than somebody who teaches you a skill. I like coach because coaching is what I do. Professor is, first, I'm not qualified to be a professor. Professor is someone who teaches doctors in English. That's what a professor is. We stole the word from Brazil, professor, which is different. It means teacher.
Mm-hmm.
What I am as a coach, I'm going to lead you. I'm not here and you're here. My job is to make you better, and I'm in service to you. Now, that means that when I'm yelling at you in a tournament, you got to do what I say because I'm your coach. It means when I say, hey, show up to class on time and show up in class. Yeah, that is included in it. But coach is a support role, whereas professor, less so. And sensei, I don't like the way we use that in English. I like coach. I'm a coach, and I'm proud to be a coach. Some days I'm an instructor, but even instructor I don't like so much. I like coach.
No, you definitely. I get the vibe that you're definitely approaching it more as a coach, as far as focusing in on building up your team, having them compete, having them believe in themselves. Now, what? How do you know? I think you've answered this already, but I'll ask you again. How do you know when you've succeeded as a coach?
I don't think you ever fully succeed and say, okay, my job is done. Let's be clear on that. You have moments of success, and to be frank, you have moments of failure. And if you can recognize them, you get some good days. I had a student who, I won't give the name, so fair enough. I guess I can tell the story. I was just talking the other day, in the middle of a tournament, underneath some significant pressure, 30 some odd seconds left, up on points, on the bottom, just getting grinded out, had a panic attack. And I'm yelling, 30 seconds, 25 seconds, 25. And I see the panic attack happening. Hold on, 20 seconds. Hold on, 15 seconds. This athlete powered through and won. And I was more proud of her. I would have been proud if she lost too. I was more proud of her for toughing through that panic attack on the bottom, where she's just looking at me for some kind of guidance and looking for a way out of this match. I'm like, no, you keep going. Because I knew this athlete could do it. And this athlete was able to overcome that in her life. Now, the consequences for not overcoming that, meh. The prize for overcoming it, meh. But for that one moment in her athletic career, that athlete was able to overcome that adversity. That was a great coaching moment for me. I had another coaching moment where I had an athlete who was facing someone. One of my women was facing someone, a good 60 pounds heavier. And really nice girl. The bigger lady was very, very nice and not big. She was like 6'2", tall, statuesque, strong woman. And my athlete was, less, not as tall, not as strong, quite a bit smaller, a good 60 pounds, 70 pounds smaller. And I said, do me a favor. Be first, get that first takedown. Do that. Everything else will come from that. Dove through, picked this girl up, ran her off the mat, slammed her in her back.
Wow.
It was a phenomenal coaching day.
That's awesome.
It was awesome. She won that match. Had to fight her 2 more times. Lost the next 2 times. So best out of 3, she lost 2. Couldn't have been prouder. Could not have been prouder. All 3 of those matches, the same thing. Dove under, picked her up, dropped her in her head.
Wow.
How was that not a good result?
Right.
That was a good coaching day. And then there's small days in the gym where you have someone, you see them have the breakthrough. Those are great days. And there's other times when you could have taught a class better. You could have done this, could have done that. There's good days and bad days. When you're an athlete, there's good days and bad days.
Now,
I keep going forward.
Yeah, I'm hearing you, and I'm. It's. I got to ask you. You seem very invested in your people, in your students, and this might sound kind of. I'll just ask. Why do you care? Why do you commit to teach and motivate and push? What's the underlying, what's the motivation?
I never thought of it. I wish you would have sent me this question in advance. I could have given some
No, I'm just saying, dude,
I don't know why I care.
I'm listening you to.
I could justify it to you. I could give you all the reasons in the world. I mean, I could list them off, although I don't know why. And I can tell you, well, this reason, I could talk about how it made a huge change in my life. And I've seen it make a huge change in the lives of, the people we teach in Dominican Republic, how they were on this path and on that path. I can tell you about how it gave me the confidence to be who I am today. Every part of my life has been made better by martial arts, every single part of my life. I mean, I never would have had the courage to talk to my wife, who's beautiful, if I didn't get courage from martial arts first. I wouldn't have had the self-confidence. All my life has been changed by martial arts. And maybe that's part of the reason why I want to give this gift to other people. And maybe part of it is just when you start teaching, you start defining yourself as a teacher. When you're competing, win-loss, who can I beat? Who can I beat? Who can I beat? And you see someone that's tough and you're given the side eye and you want to roll with him. And if he beats it, okay, that guy's on your list and you go after him for week after week after week in the gym. When you become a coach, your focus changes. I see my guys getting better. I see them getting better. Even now that we've been back since after COVID, we can't do the same training we normally do. I see them getting better. It's just gratifying. And I make a joke, hey, I'm not bad at this, but I'm actually not bad at this. I like knowing that I'm good at coaching. And so maybe it's selfish, this caring about the students, a selfish thing that I want to be that guy, I want to be that coach, but whatever it is, I get a real feeling of value seeing my guys get better, and seeing not just getting better, but being able to host the community that I have in my gym. When COVID was on, my guys were getting together anyway. They don't just get together like to roll for a couple hours a day. They're getting together in their off time, they're friends, they're supporting each other. And I don't have the kind of relationship with my students where, you talked about Sensei earlier. I don't have that separation between my students and I and maybe I should have it. I don't have it. My students feel more than free to make fun of me in a way that I would never in a million years have thought of making fun of any of my instructors. One of my students needed help moving, so we packed up the moving truck and we're moving. I would never have dreamed of asking my instructors to move for me. A lot of these things that I come up from the old traditional sense, I keep my instructor way up here. I'm with these guys. And maybe, that's not the best way to do it, but it's the only way I know how to do it. And I get to be one of the guys at the same time. And that's just great for me. So it's
Really?
selfish. This giving to people, honestly, I like the way it makes me feel. If I have to bring it down and to the quintessence of it, it's completely self-serving and selfish. I like to be that guy.
It's really interesting hearing you speak about coaching and jujitsu. There's a lot of passion there and a lot of energy. What would you say? And again, this is more, I guess, quasi philosophical, maybe. What's like in this
quasi philosopher? So we're all good.
in this journey, in this martial arts journey, if we want to call it that, what would you say has been the most significant lesson for you, personally, professionally, both? What's the most significant lesson?
Learning to not be afraid of failure. I'm still afraid of failure. We're all afraid of failure. It doesn't hurt as much anymore, failing. You don't like it. Nobody likes it. But you do Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, you're going to do a lot of it. You're going to fail every single day. Every single day. Every time you roll, you're going to fail at something, and you just get used to it. It's like, it's not the end of the world. I can do this. I can try. I can move forward. I can persevere. I told you a story a while ago, my first MMA fight. I got the offer 2 weeks out. Somebody got injured, and I got the offer to fight. I wasn't ready to fight. There was no way I was ready to fight. I said, let me sleep on it. And I went and I looked in there and I'm like, I can't back out of this fight. Here I am training every day like a madman. And I finally got an opportunity to fight. I'm not going to do it. And I was scared to death. And I did it knowing I was going to get my butt kicked on national TV in Japan. But I knew that beating wasn't going to be as bad as the feeling of saying no to this fight. And I never would have done that if it weren't for Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And that gave me the courage I needed to fail at other things, to apply for jobs, to go out on my own and do a business, to go and talk to my wife who's way out of my league. What's the worst that can happen? I can fail, or I can not try, and I can feel that feeling in my stomach for the next 6 months, 8 months, 8 years, 20 years. Martial arts taught me that. They taught me that you have to strive and you have to fail and you have to do it again. You got to eat that failure. Never mind that I can handle myself, I can beat people up. None of that matters. I learned that I can fail, and it's not the end of the world, and I've got to go fail again, and that's the price of admission for success.
It sure is, man. It's part of life. That's a really fascinating point there. Now, last question is, where can people find out about the dojo, if you don't mind? I know you're
Thanks so much.
Well, I'm just saying,
Put myself on my hat on. The easiest way, delacosta.ca, DELACOSTA.ca, delacosta.ca. Failing that, ask any of your friends that do jiu-jitsu. They'll know who I am. Find me on Facebook as Joe Canada or Dela Costa Ottawa, but I'm Joe Canada on Facebook, and I'm always there. It's a small little Facebook addiction that I have. But delacosta.ca, we're on Somerset near Preston, so right downtown. And like most gyms in Ottawa, we're offering the free week. Come try us out. I tell everybody who walks through the door, try out a few different gyms. If I have any advice to a new Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu player, a new martial artist from anywhere, it's don't sign up at the first gym you walk into, even mine. Go try out a few different gyms. Because if you like the sport and you get hooked on the sport, you're going to spend a lot of time doing this sport. And the people that you're going to be hanging out with are going to be your friends, and they're going to be your teammates. And you want to get to a gym that has a culture that fits you. If you don't fit your culture, you're not going to enjoy it so much. You're not going to progress that far. You're going to end up quitting, or you're going to end up spinning your wheels at a gym that wasn't right for you. There's some excellent Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu gyms in Ottawa, but not all gyms for all people. I wish I could say mine was. It's not. But I tell people, come try out my gym. I'm happy to recommend 2-3 other gyms. Go try those out. And more times than not, they go, they come back.
Fascinating, man. Thank you very much for your time. It's almost midnight, but I appreciate this really interesting conversation. All the best to you, and
Thanks to you.
stay in touch. Yeah.
Always have time for you. Thanks so much for the interview. It's about time we did this.